Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 105 based on novel. So let's start. Boy, it's too early for you to be happy. It was just luck. I don't believe it. How much can your strength be improved in 3 months? Seeing the light smile on Xiao Yang's face, Tianying was filled with anger in his pair of blue eyes. He drank hard in his mouth, waved his big hand, slightly bent his fingers, and turned his palm into claws. Then the soles of his feet stepped on the void fiercely, and his body burst out suddenly. His claws waved together, tearing the void, bringing a harsh sound of sonic boom. Hearing Tianying's words, Xiao Yang's mouth was slightly lifted, his toes gently touched the void, and his body was like a boat swinging gently on the void. His body tilted towards the void on the left. Then the next moment, he saw only a paw with unparalleled power, and then he leaned close to Xiao Yang's face and flew out from Xiao Yang's right side. 3 months is enough to change many things, such as the strength gap between you and me. The faint voice of words came out, Xiao Yang turned his body, and Tianju's step came out at will. In the twinkling of an eye, he had come behind Tianying. He was surprised again in his heart. Tianying rushed forward and stopped it. While turning around, he grabbed Xiao Yang fiercely behind him. Jiu Jing's eyes stared at the rapidly expanding claws in front of him. Xiao Yang's face did not change at all. As soon as the corners of his mouth turned, the palm behind him suddenly lifted up, and his heart read a move. A layer of purple and golden dragon scale instantly covered the whole right arm. As soon as his wrist turned, his 5 fingers pinched his fist, he made a clang sound and collided with the claws of the eagle. Bang! When the two collided, the surrounding void suddenly collapsed, and an invisible energy ripple suddenly spread. Xiao Yang's body was shocked severely, and his body standing on the void was motionless. On the contrary, the anger in Tianying's eyes quickly retreated under this blow, but instead, it was a deep solemn color. The middle of the 5-star and half emperor. How is it possible? You know, before March, Xiao Yang's strength was clear, but he had just entered the 5-star and half emperor. Why did he enter the middle of the 5-star and half emperor in less than half a year? Moreover, with Xiao Yang's terrible body speed, the 5-star and half emperor can catch up with the 9-star and half emperor. It's hard to imagine that if we wait until the future, we won't even have to fight the emperor. Seeing the fight between Xiao Yang and Tianying, they were even. Yang Lion and Xiong Gang couldn't help frowning slightly. When they heard the shocked words in Tianying's mouth, their faces couldn't help changing. However, when Murong Qianqian saw this scene, he felt an incredible feeling in his heart. This guy. Doesn't he hide his strength? Otherwise, how could there be monsters of this level in the world? Murong Qianqian looked at the scene in the sky with a shocked look on his face and couldn't help but exclaim. The 5-star and half emperor's strength is equal to that of the 9-star and half emperor's war. I'm afraid there has never been an example in the whole continent. Oh, nothing is impossible, but the world in your eyes is too small. Hearing Tianying's unbelievable words, Xiao Yang smiled and shook his outstretched fist with great force. Tianying and Xiao Yang immediately retreated a few steps. They looked up and looked different in their eyes. The boy is crazy. Let's go together and take him. Seeing that Tianying couldn't suppress Xiao Yang's momentum, Xiong Gang immediately took a step forward, glared at Xiao Yang with his eyes, and the fighting spirit in his body gushed out of his body. Ha ha. Indeed, this boy makes me more and more curious. It's just a 5-star and a half emperor. He can break out and sell the power we don't dare to underestimate. I really want to know what your origin is. The burning lion's face gave a hungry laugh, and immediately gave a sharp drink in his mouth, and his body suddenly shook. The red fighting spirit immediately rushed out of the pores all over his body. At the same time, the soles of his feet stepped on the void, and rushed at Xiao Yang. In the blink of an eye, the burning lion has come to Xiao Yang's body, with a huge fist. The red fighting spirit covers the burning lion's fist like a flame and pours on Xiao Yang. In the face of the fierce blow from the burning lion, Xiao Yang's face was particularly calm. When the giant fist came to Xiao Yang, the latter leaned back slightly. At the same time, his feet moved and Tianju's step was displayed in an instant. Hiss. The next moment, when the giant fist of Yang Lion was penetrating Xiao Yang's body, the former reacted. It turned out that what was in front of him was just a remnant. Residual shadow. With a cry in his mouth, the look on the burning lion's face also changed. His body turned fiercely in place. The burning lion almost threw a hard blow back like a conditioned reflex. Bang! With a roar, Xiao Yang's body suddenly shook, and they retreated back respectively. At the same time, Xiao Yang showed a sneer on his face, waved his big hand, and the gorgeous fire suddenly surged out, sweeping over the burning lion. Bang! The vigorous fighting spirit mixed with the terrible hot flame, like the ocean, poured out to the burning lion. In the face of this sudden strange fire and strong wind, the look on the Yang lion's face suddenly changed. However, without its action, the strange fire and strong wind had fallen on him. Pooh! The terrible fire bombarded the burning lion's chest, making the burning lion's face turn red in an instant. The ribs on the chest kept making a clicking sound of bone fracture. Then, a big mouthful of red blood was finally ejected by the burning lion, and its body shape flew out uncontrollably. It was just picked up by the bear that greeted it. Crazy boy! You will pay for it. Bear just raised his head and said angrily to Xiao Yang. I've heard too many of these words, but I'm still me. Whoosh dash! The heavenly eagle's body flashed and its claws were fierce. It scratched Xiao Yang's throat. Boy, you challenge our patience several times. Today, with your extra money, the king will keep you here. With a sharp drink, the body shape of the eagle appeared in front of Xiao Yang. A pair of blue eyes were stained with scarlet at the moment, and a blood stain gradually appeared in the heart. Blood eagle curse. The hoarse cry fell, and a scarlet blood-like mist suddenly gushed out of the eagle and lingered around the eagle. Strange lines appeared on a pair of white claws, and the speed of the eagle itself soared in an instant. Secret method. Feeling the strong breath from the eagle's body, Xiao Yang couldn't help but be a little surprised. While his body retreated suddenly, his mouth also whispered in a deep voice. Immediately after that, the eagle followed up like a maggot on the tarsal bone. The scarlet fighting spirit condensed at his fingertips and turned into sharp spikes. While Xiao Yang's body retreated violently, it followed Xiao Yang's chest. Even though Xiao Yang's speed is not slow, the secret method of Tianying is a sudden sight. For a moment, Xiao Yang can't avoid it. Therefore, he can only watch Tianying's sharp claws fall on his chest. Thorn la la. In a gorgeous spark, Xiao Yang's black robe was instantly torn to pieces, revealing the dragon phoenix ancient armor covering Xiao Yang's whole body. The sharp spike and Xiao Yang's dragon phoenix ancient armor rubbed fiercely. In a very harsh creak, the dragon scale on Xiao Yang's chest was forcibly torn open by the sharp spike. Immediately, the red blood quickly flowed out of the wound and looked quite stinging. Drink! A successful attack made Tianying more ferocious in his heart. With a wave of his left arm, the other 5 sharp thorns also crossed Xiao Yang's chest in an instant, leaving 5 deep scars on Xiao Yang's chest. Puff! After being hit hard, Xiao Yang's face turned white. Even if a big mouthful of blood was ejected, his body quickly retreated to the rear. At the back of Xiao Yang, Xionggang was shocked when he saw Xiao Yang rushing towards him. The earthy yellow fighting spirit in his body quickly gushed out of his body. His strong body moved suddenly, just like a hill, and collided with Xiao Yang, who was retreating violently. Hum! Seeing the eagle and Xionggang one after another, Xiao Yang's eyes were suddenly cold, and the corners of his bloody mouth aroused a joking sneer. At a certain moment, Xiao Yang's backward body was fiercely stopped in the void, his hands were raised, and the cumbersome printing formulas in his hands changed rapidly. At the next moment, when the two were only a few feet away from Xiao Yang suddenly drank and said, 6 tabernacles. Rise. At the same time, behind Xiao Yang, a strange black paint barrier suddenly condensed out. At the moment when the two people rushed in front of him and behind him, Xiao Yang smiled coldly. As soon as he lay back, he disappeared into the barrier behind him. And then, bang! On the open sky, Xiao Yang's body slowly appeared, and looked at the place where he had just stood with a joking face. At this moment, Tianying and Xionggang, who were slightly embarrassed, retreated. Xiao Yang's abrupt move embarrassed them. The two of them paused, and then their angry eyes suddenly turned and fell on Xiao Yang. Boy! How dare you fool us? Tianying looked at Xiao Yang angrily, waved his claws, and countless sharp spikes immediately condensed around him, pointing at Xiao Yang. Hee, ask for trouble. How can you blame me? Xiao Yang put his hands around his chest, looked at Tianying and smiled coldly. Raw. Boy! Let's take a punch from the king first. As soon as Xiao Yang's voice fell, Xionggang roared. His strong body moved suddenly, and then rushed at Xiao Yang again. At the same time, Tianying waved his big hand. The countless sharp spikes came at Xiao Yang like eyes, and his body rushed at Xiao Yang again in the void. Seeing this, Xiao Yang sneered. Just now Tianying took the opportunity to hurt him, but at the moment, the distance between the two sides is 100 feet away. Now it's not so easy to hurt him again. Hum. With a cold hum, Xiao Yang raised his hands again, changed the yin formula, and the fighting spirit in his body also lost rapidly at this moment. At the same time, the distance between Xiao Yang and Tianying also shortened rapidly. In the blink of an eye, there was only less than 10 feet left. Xiao Yang's heart is divided into two functions. On the one hand, he quickly condenses the cumbersome printing formula in his hand. On the other hand, he constantly flashes those sharp thorns. At the same time, he should also be prepared to deal with the coming two people. Drink. Boy, die. The roar of thunder suddenly came. The huge body of bear just like a hill bore the brunt. In a twinkling of an eye, he had come to Xiao Yang. The huge palm was held out of thin air in the void, and the fighting spirit in the palm condensed rapidly. While Xiongang's palm was raised high, a huge stone hammer was also condensed in Xiongang's hand. Xionggang held up a huge stone hammer in his hand, which was comparable to most of Xiao Yang's body, and threw it on Xiao Yang's head with a ferocious face. At the same time, Tianying has also come behind Xionggang. Compared with Xionggang, he looks at Xiao Yang suspiciously, and has a bad hunch. Immediately after that, at the moment when the huge stone hammer in Xiongang's hand fell, Xiao Yang suddenly opened his mouth. At the same time, an earth-shaking cry came from Xiao Yang's mouth. Heaven's wrath. Moo, moo, moo. For a moment, the souls of the two people in front of Xiao Yang suddenly shocked, and their body shape solidified at this moment. The huge hammer falling on Xiao Yang's head also stagnated for a moment. Then, when the two returned to their senses, a gorgeous flame wheel was condensed in Xiao Yang's palm. Buddha anger reincarnation. The faint voice of words slowly spewed out. At the same time, the flame wheel in Xiao Yang's palm flickered slightly. In a moment, a shocking lacquer black energy light column burst out from the wheel, and a blow instantly blew Xionggang and Tianying out in front of Xiao Yang. The two people who were blown away by the energy light column were directly buried in the mountains and forests below. Suddenly, the world was turbulent and the whole world trembled violently. Who? The two of them were blown back. Xiao Yang breathed a sigh of relief and repeatedly used the fighting skills with high vision consumption, which still had a lot of load for Xiao Yang at the moment. If it hadn't stimulated the blood power of Long Huang from the beginning, I'm afraid the battle would not be as easy as it seems at the moment. However, the bombardment just now did not really hurt them. Those attacks seem heavy, but the strength of these three people is there after all. How can Xiao Yang easily hurt them? Therefore, Xiao Yang has reserved his hand for each blow. He only hopes that they can understand his intention. In the face of the three kings of Shalin mountain range, Xiao Yang is really unwilling to be enemies with them. Now Xiao Yang has made many enemies. If even these warcraft are provoked, it will be another big trouble for Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang still doesn't want to go too far with them until he has the strength to suppress them. However, the tree wants to be quiet, but the wind doesn't stop. At the moment when Xiao Yang took back the reincarnation of Buddha's anger, a human figure suddenly appeared on the void on Xiao Yang's side. When his body was turned around, a terrible whip leg that was enough to open the mountain and crack the earth came at Xiao Yang's head. Hum. Xiao Yang had noticed this for a long time. Therefore, while the latter appeared, Xiao Yang's heart moved. The whole body immediately lingered in gold. In a twinkling, he had turned into a King Kong giant god. Get out of here. In the face of the latter's life-threatening blow, Xiao Yang held the latter's leg in his hand with a backhand. With a wave of his arm, he wanted to throw it out. But right now. Xiao Yang. Wait. On the boundless sky, the girl's crisp words came slowly, which made Xiao Yang's actions lag for a moment. The golden face frowned slightly, and his eyes withdrew to see where Murong Chanxian was at the moment. At the same time, Murong Chanxian on the ground also got up quickly. With her light toes on the ground, her delicate body moved, and she jumped up to fly towards Xiao Yang in the sky. Roar! Being controlled by Xiao Yang, the look on Yang Lion's face also changed slightly, but soon he saw that Xiao Yang didn't move anymore. Even if he ran the fighting spirit in his body again, he wanted to break free from Xiao Yang's hand. Hum. Seeing that the burning lion still wanted to do it, Xiao Yang suddenly snorted angrily, grabbed the right hand of the burning lion's body and pulled it back fiercely. The burning lion's body was pulled out of control by Xiao Yang into the void in front of him. Then, before the burning lion regained his consciousness, Xiao Yang suddenly loosened his grip on the latter's palm and clenched it into a fist at the moment of pulling back. When the burning lion regained his consciousness, Xiao Yang's fist had been firmly hit on the burning lion. Pooh! Suddenly, the blood flew, and the body of the burning lion flew out uncontrollably, and the breath of the whole person also decreased rapidly. Then, the burning lion, like the two in front, smashed and fell into a mountain forest below. Later, Murong Chantian jumped into the sky and came to Xiao Yang. Seeing that Xiao Yang still blew away the burning lion, Murong Chantian couldn't help frowning slightly, glanced at Xiao Yang and said, "I told you to wait. Why did you do it?" Hearing Murong Chantian's slightly complaining words, Xiao Yang frowned slightly. The dark eyes stared at the latter and said in a deep voice, "He did it to me, and you told me to wait. Do you want me to wait until he killed me, and then I do it?" Hearing the speech, the girl was speechless. Xiao Yang said it well. After all, it was the hand of the burning lion that moved first. At the moment, she couldn't help but blame Xiao Yang. "I'm afraid anyone can't stand it." He brushed his lips lightly. In addition to being helpless in his heart, Murong Chantian had to turn his slightly worried eyes to the mountain forest below. After several fierce encounters between Xiao Yang and Tianying, there have been several giant pits in the mountain forest at the moment, and the three of them are lying in them. Don't worry, they don't matter. It's not so easy to solve the problem. It seems that he has seen the concerns in the girl's heart, and Xiao Yang has also understood that the girl in front of him is afraid to have some connection with these three guys, otherwise he will not stay here after Xiao Yang's reminder, let alone stop Xiao Yang at the critical moment just now. Hearing Xiao Yang's words, the expression on the girl's pretty face improved slightly. Then she turned around and looked at Xiao Yang up and down. There was a brilliant flow in her beautiful eyes. Seeing the look in the girl's eyes, Xiao Yang couldn't help glancing his mouth. He could even imagine what Murong Chantian would say next. "Xiao Yang, you really, just. It's a 5-star and a half emperor." Before the girl's voice fell, Xiao Yang interrupted it. For such words that doubt his strength, Xiao Yang doesn't know how to listen to them. Do these people judge people by their realm? Hearing the words spit out from Xiao Yang's mouth, the girl's pretty face looked more suspicious, but at the same time, her beautiful eyes also showed a deeply frightened color. The strength of 5-star and half emperors has suppressed 3 9-star and half emperors. This record can be called terrible. This record, even with Murong Chantian's experience, has never been heard of by any elder in the family, let alone those ancient books. However, just as the girl was about to speak again, a few words full of surprise suddenly spread over the mountains and forests below. "Young lady, why are you here?" Murong Chantian turned his head and looked, while Xiao Yang narrowed his eyes and whispered in his heart. Then he smiled and slowly dispersed the Vajra glass body, releasing the momentum and pressure outside the body, which was also incorporated into the body. Now that he has confirmed the connection between the girl in front of him and the three people, Xiao Yang believes that there should be no conflict next. Of course, if there is, Xiao Yang also has self-confidence and can let himself deal with the three people calmly. "The 4-star and a half emperor under our exploration is you, miss. I haven't seen you for several years. I can't imagine that your strength has reached such a level. Tut tut, it really makes the three of us ashamed." Xiao Yang's eyes turned and saw the three eagles at the moment. After being hit hard by Xiao Yang, all three of them were injured. Xiong Gang, in particular, suffered Xiao Yang's reincarnation of Buddha's anger. The terrible power directly broke a layer of body armor on his body surface. His whole body was stained with blood. The injury in his body was enough for him to rest for a while. The three men came forward and saw Murong Chantian in front of Xiao Yang. They first sighed in their mouth. Then they frowned and glanced at Xiao Yang from time to time. There was always a look of vigilance in their eyes. "Miss, why are you with him?" After a long time, he returned to his normal state, but the sky eagle with a pale look on his face finally looked at Murong Chantian in front of him and asked in a low voice. Hearing the words in the mouth of Tianying, Murong Chantian glanced at Xiao Yang standing behind him, then grinned and said, "Why, you have a grudge against him?" Hearing the speech, Tianying was stunned and immediately smiled and said, "Well, Qiu is not, but he destroyed the east wall and almost caused the cold current to sweep the whole Shalin Mountains. This matter is closely related to him, miss." Hearing the speech, Murong Chantian could not help but be a little stunned. Then he turned to look at Xiao Yang. The east wall was destroyed. Even she didn't dare to look at it easily. But what Murong Chantian didn't expect was that with Xiao Yang's strength, she could destroy the mountain wall made by the 3 9-star and half emperors. However, the girl turned to think that she had just seen Xiao Yang suppress the 3 9-star and half emperors with the strength of 5-star and half emperors, so she was naturally able to destroy the mountain wall. In this way, Murong Chantian was relieved. Hearing what Tianying said, Xiao Yang also frowned. For the deep stream, he was helpless. It was strange that the cold current was really terrible. At that time, Xiao Yang was also angry and just smashed the glacier there, but who knew that he would make things like that? Seeing Murong Qianqian's eyes, Xiao Yang had to stand up helplessly. The latter couldn't help turning a big white eye at Xiao Yang. Then he turned his eyes back and looked at the three eagles again, smiled and said, "It's true that he destroyed the east wall. It's really a big thing. You also have reason to attack him. But what about Miss Ben? Xiao Yang has saved Miss Ben's life several times. Although the east wall is very important, can it be more important than Miss Ben's life?" As soon as Murong Qianqian said this, the look on the face of the three eagles in front of him suddenly changed, and there was a shocked look in his eyes. If the aunt in front of him had an accident on their territory, their heads would not be guaranteed. Seeing this, Murong Qianqian snorted coldly. His pretty face suddenly became unhappy. He looked at the three people in front of him and said with a complaining tone, "Before January, I was chased and killed by a group of people and nearly lost my opponent. Xiao Yang saved me. At that time, there was a 9-star and half-emperor in that group. Xiao Yang tried his best to kill them all in order to save me." At the end of the voice, Murong Qianqian glanced at Xiao Yang playfully while the three people in front were shocked. Xiao Yang naturally had to shrug. At the same time, the look on the faces of the three Tianying people also changed abruptly. They looked at each other and believed Murong Qianqian's words. After all, if they said something about others, they might not believe it, but for Xiao Yang, he just suppressed the three of them on his own. Just by this point, Murong Qianqian's words could not allow them not to believe it. However, just when the three of Tianying thought that the girl's words were over, the latter opened his mouth again. As soon as he exported, the hearts of the three in front of him immediately tightened. "It's not over yet. Miss Ben thought it would be okay if there were those humans. Unexpectedly, even the warcraft in Shaolin Mountain dared to move Miss Ben. If it weren't for Xiao Yang, you wouldn't have seen me." Murong Qianqian scolded angrily, then stared at the three people in front of him and said coldly, "They are all under your command. I must settle this account with you." Hearing the speech, the three people all complain incessantly. Since things have developed to this situation, whether true or false, in short, Xiao Yang is afraid that he can't move. I'm afraid the reason why Murong Qianqian can say this is because of Xiao Yang. Three people, I look at you, you look at me, their hearts are full of bitter smiles. At present, they can't move Xiao Yang, but also thank him. After all, as Murong Qianqian said himself, no matter how important the East Wall is, it still doesn't matter compared with her life. Immediately, the three people looked at each other, and immediately understood. Then they turned their eyes to Xiao Yang, arched their hands at the latter, and said with a smile, "Hehe, there have been many misunderstandings before. I hope you can ignore the past grievances. The three of me are here to apologize to you first." When the voice fell down, the three bowed and arched hands at Xiao Yanqi. The latter saw it and immediately hugged his fist. At the same time, Xiao Yang also looked at Murong Qianqian. A smile appeared at the corners of her mouth. The girl also smiled playfully. She immediately withdrew her eyes, and her face returned to the cold look just now. She looked at the three people in front of her and said, "Well, how can I settle this account with you?" Hearing the girl's joking tone, they couldn't help but have a bad hunch in their hearts. "Well, Xiao Yang saved my life and is Miss Ben's benefactor. As long as you three can meet one of his requirements, Miss Ben will be in the past. How do you agree?" At the end of the speech, the girl's tone made people feel irrefutable. For this, the three people had nothing to say. They looked at each other. They all had a look of tears. Immediately, they quickly said to Murong Qianqian, "It's all arranged by Miss." Seeing this, Murong Qianqian turned to look at Xiao Yang. It seemed that his eyes were asking Xiao Yang whether he was satisfied. The latter couldn't help laughing. The girl also smiled and ordered the three people, "Let's go first. Go to your old nest. The injury in Miss Ben hasn't recovered yet." The voice fell, and the girl seemed to suddenly think of something. When she flew to the west, her pretty face also looked crimson. Later, Xiao Yang arched his hands to the three eagles again, looked at Murong Qianqian's graceful back, shook his head and smiled, and then followed. When they got a distance away from each other, Tianying sighed with a frown. His pale face looked a little ugly at the moment. This guy destroyed the East Wall and almost caused great disaster. Now he even asked the young lady to be an amulet, but one day, I will make you pay the price. The eagle bit his teeth and said word by word. But for this, Xiao Yan frowned again, rubbed his chin with his rough fingers, raised his eyes and looked at Xiao Yang's back. After a long time, he said in a condensed voice, "Boss, in my opinion, maybe we were wrong about Xiao Yang's destruction of the East Wall. He destroyed the East Wall, which may not be a bad thing." Huh! As soon as they said this, Tianying and the Burning Lion immediately frowned and looked at Xiao Yan with a low face. They didn't feel smooth when they listened to Xiao Yan's elbow turning out. However, Xiao Yan took a deep breath and pondered for a moment. Then he raised his eyes and said to the two people on the side, "As you all know, the East Wall needs to be repaired every 100 years, but in the process of repair in recent 100 years, you should also have a deep understanding. After hundreds of years of accumulation, the cold has become more and more serious. Now, even if you and I work together, it is difficult to control it completely." Hearing Xiao Yan's words, Tianying and Yangsha looked at each other, and they couldn't help but show a look of doubt. They all knew the information, but Xiao Yan said again that it shouldn't be aimless. And then Xiao Yan continued, "This time, if you really wait until the East Wall is broken by the cold, I'm afraid you and me can't suppress it anymore. However, after the collapse of the East Wall this time, I found that it was precisely because of Xiao Yan that he inadvertently dug out the cracks under the East Wall, and the cold spread a lot, which can also avoid causing us more trouble in the future. Therefore, I think, in general, Xiao Yan's destruction of the East Wall did not harm us, but did create something for us. We have a chance to take the initiative. Maybe in this way, we can delay the complete outbreak of the cold for a period of time." As soon as Xiao Yan said this, Tianying and Yangsha immediately looked at each other. Immediately, they frowned and thought for a moment. Only then did they clarify the clue. According to what Xiao Yan said at the moment and Murong Chanshan's previous words, they not only couldn't complain about Xiao Yan, but also thanked him. The three raised their heads and looked at Xiao Yan's vague back at the end of their sight. The look on their faces became more and more complex. At the speed of Xiao Yan and his party, in just one day, the 5 people came to the depths of Shalin Mountains again. Along the way, Murong Chanshan regained her identity as a young lady and walked in front of the 5 people. With the momentum of the 3 eagles behind her, any high-level warcraft passing by had to surrender, while Xiao Yan gathered her breath and kept a distance from the 3 people behind. Although Murong Chanshan is pressing these 3 guys, Xiao Yan can't rest assured. After all, after the previous war, these 3 guys are not very cold about Xiao Yan. Who knows if they will suddenly get angry with Xiao Yan? Once Xiao Yan has an accident, these 3 guys will just prevaricate with what happened to the East Wall. And then, Xiao Yan is the only one who is miserable. Of course, while Xiao Yan thought so, the following 3 Tianying frowned all the way. They have a new understanding of Xiao Yan's destruction of the East Wall, and their resentment towards Xiao Yan has naturally decreased a lot. But before, they have been to the point of life or death, but now they suddenly feel grateful to Xiao Yan, which is really difficult for them. Immediately after Xiao Yan, the 3 looked at Xiao Yan's back and looked at each other, but no one dared to come forward to talk to Xiao Yan. Invisible, the atmosphere has also become somewhat awkward. Until a long time later, the Burning Lion among the 3 finally stood at this critical moment. In terms of temperament, he is the most bold and cheerful one among the 3. If he wants to come forward, Xiao Yan won't be cold again. The 3 looked at each other. Then, the Burning Lion stamped the void with the soles of his feet, shook his body slightly, and quickly flew to Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan in front of him also quickly noticed the change behind him. After he found that the Burning Lion behind him had no malice, Xiao Yan frowned slightly and turned his head to look at the Burning Lion who came to his side. "Why, something?" Although Xiao Yan's tone sounded very plain, it was invisible, but it contained indifference that refused people thousands of miles away, which made Yang Lion's smiling face freeze and embarrassed for a moment when he heard Xiao Yan's words. Then he rubbed his hands and smiled genially at Xiao Yan. "Ha ha, brother Xiao Yan, don't get me wrong. There were really some unpleasant things between us before, but they have all been turned over. Now, I just want to make friends with brother Xiao Yan. The common saying is not good. It's called not knowing each other without fighting. After this incident, I have seen that brother Xiao Yan, you are not an ordinary person and will become a great thing in the future." At this point, the tone in the Yang Lion's mouth was a meal. His eyes stared at Xiao Yan and showed a positive look in his eyes. When Xiao Yan saw this, he couldn't help muttering in his heart. He couldn't accept the sudden change of Yang Lion. After all, it's hard for anyone to face a person who yells at himself one moment and smiles the next. It seemed that he saw the doubt in Xiao Yan's heart. Yang Lion immediately smiled and said again, "If Brother Xiao Yang doesn't believe it, I can fully understand it. However, with our young lady in front, you can rest assured that we will never go back on our word." The voice fell. The burning lion turned his head and looked at the two eagles behind his eyes. When they saw it, they nodded immediately, moved their body, and quickly came to Xiao Yang. Seeing the appearance of the three people, Xiao Yang couldn't help being a little stunned. Their sudden enthusiasm made Xiao Yang unbearable. However, on second thought, Xiao Yang could not help but turn his eyes to Murong Qianqian, who could make 3 9-star and half-emperor level warcraft obedient. What is the identity of Murong Qianqian? This girl, who is the daughter of the Warcraft family. Relying on the three people around him, Xiao Yang has been able to determine that Murong Qianqian's body is definitely a kind of Warcraft, but Xiao Yang is surprised that it is difficult to find any useful information from the girl based on his experience. It is thought that there should be something covering up his breath on Murong Qianqian. Old Bone, can you see what kind of Warcraft this girl is? Curious, Xiao Yang also entrusted his doubts to Guyo. The latter smiled and said, "Boy, don't ask me. Since you want to know, people are right in front of you. Just ask her herself." Smelling the speech, Xiao Yang turned his lips. If he could, he would have asked, "Hey, Mr. Xiao Yang, there was some misunderstanding about the previous thing. You see, since the young lady also said that the three of us should meet Mr. Xiao Yang's request, Mr. Xiao Yang can mention it. As long as the three of us can do it and take it out, we will not be stingy." While Xiao Yang was curling his mouth, the eagle on one side arched his hand at Xiao Yang with a smile and smiled. As soon as Tianying said this, Xiao Yang was awakened and recovered. Hearing what Tianying said, Xiao Yang's eyes turned and his heart suddenly burst into a happy look. Virtually, Murong Qianqian also helped Xiao Yang a big favor. The joy in the bottom of his eyes flashed and disappeared. The light in Xiao Yang's eyes flashed slightly. Then he turned to look at the eagle on the side. At present, he arched his hand at the latter and said with a smile, "In that case, I'd like to thank you first. Hehe, Mr. Xiao Yang is welcome." Since this is what the young lady said, Mr. Xiao Yang can speak. Seeing this, Tianying also quickly arched his hands again. There was also a brilliant circulation in a pair of blue eyes. Murong Qianqian's move is definitely not just for the punishment, he said. "I'm afraid it's more to eliminate the contradiction between Xiao Yang and the three of them. The terror of Xiao Yang, the three of them and Murong Qianqian are obvious to all. They are half-emperors who can even cross 4 stars. Such people, especially the younger generation like Xiao Yang, can be called a real existence against the sky." Tianying has no doubt that people like Xiao Yang may look at the whole Yuanwu continent and be alone for this. This kind of person is usually the goal of all major forces on the mainland. Once he joins a force and has endless cultivation resources, when Xiao Yang really grows up in the future, his force and position on the mainland will inevitably rise. Compared with the east wall destroyed by Xiao Yang, no matter what the result is, Murong Qianqian sees Xiao Yang from beginning to end, not just because Xiao Yang saved her. This video will end here.